So this month we're talking about wealth and abundance, and particularly last week Reverend Debbie talked about what does it mean to be wealthy, and today we're talking about what does it mean to be wealthy part 2. But before we do that, this month we're also doing a little review of who we are. What is Science of Mind all about? What's this Center for Spiritual Living all about? And there it is. That's what we call our teaching symbol in the whole Center for Spiritual Living. And I really like this. I think this is what Ernest Holmes meant when he said, this is all we're selling. If you can grasp this, you get a gist of what we're doing here. If you look at the circle, well, we can't put God in a circle. We know that. You don't confine God. But the idea is no beginning and no end. That's the God stuff. No beginning and no end is the circle. And then it's divided into 3 different parts. That first part is what we consider our consciousness. This is where we make our decisions. We set our intentions. We plant our seed thoughts. This is so important. We take this to the prisons, and they've never seen this before. And when I can get Monty to it, he can draw a very nice circle like that. So we share that with the prisoners, and it's new to most of them that how important, how powerful their thoughts are. So the second part is what we might call law, soil, or where that seed thought goes into the soil, just like a farmer. When a farmer plants a seed, it goes into the soil. And what happens? That soil is neutral. The soil doesn't say, oh, no, we didn't want string beans. We got to kick those seeds out. We want radishes this year. That's not what happens. Whatever we give to that soil or the law is what is the form or the effect. That's what our lives look like. If you wonder what you've been thinking, look around. Look around at your finances. Look around at your relationships. Look around at your health. Our thoughts, our seed thoughts, went into law and outpictured. And the beauty of it is we can always, if we don't like what we see, we can change our thoughts. Change your thinking, change your life. The V represents the idea that Spirit of God comes down into our lives. That Spirit, that very Spirit that created everything and everyone, is the Spirit that lives, dwells, and has its being within each and every one of us. And so that's kind of what we talk about here at our Centers for Spiritual Living. It's called the creative process. It's powerful. If you take nothing else away, I even made a little picture just in case that didn't come up there. You see, you can do this by yourself. Monty does it a lot more beautifully than I do when we're in prison. So anyway, so this week we're talking about our focus on looking at abundance from a deeply spiritual perspective. Looking at abundance from a deeply spiritual perspective. And what does it really mean to be healthy? Last week, Reverend Debbie talked about this passage, the one about the camel passing through the needle. It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a wealthy man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And for a long time, that passage was kind of used to keep people in poverty. Like, oh, I can't be rich because if I'm rich, I can't get to heaven. Well, that's not the truth at all. When we look at the verses before and ahead and the other things that are said and the reality of life, I think it boils down to something like this. Don't look to your wealth as your God, but look to God as your wealth And when you do, you are wealthy in immeasurable ways. Don't look to you, don't think that this, and you see this all the time. Look at the people that are extremely wealthy, and many of them are miserable and unhappy. Especially people that get it fast, like the lottery. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. So look to God for your good. Mary Morrissey, who is a New Thought minister, said she's got a class that goes, I think it's a year-long class. She's got the curriculum for it, and she says this: ideas are God's currency. Ideas are God's currency. And in his book, Prosperity, the Unity minister and founder of the Unity Church, Charles Filmer, says, God's first currency is ideas. And he talks about King Solomon and how King Solomon was told by God, ask me for a gift. And what King Solomon asked for was wisdom, ideas. God is mind, and his gifts are not material but spiritual, not things but ideas. He asked for and received ideas and then developed them himself. Because he was wise, all the world came to his court seeking wisdom and bringing riches in exchange for it. And this is the thing that is available to all of us, is God's wisdom. It's available for our asking. One of the affirmations you might think around this is something simple, like, I open my mind to rich ideas and rich results. I think I heard, Alicia, that you said you like that word rich versus abundance. I open my mind to rich ideas and rich results. I'm going to give you an example. Some of you have heard this example, but that's okay. You're going to hear it again because it's good to hear. I was a stockbroker for 34 years, and I had my ups and downs in the business. And something that happened was I like to get excited about little companies, and buy a bunch of stock for myself and for my customers. It was fun because you get in on the ground floor and it's exciting. So then the earnings report comes out, right? Ew, not what we were looking for. Stock goes down. I'm like, oh, no, I got to call these people. My wealth has gone down. Their wealth has gone down. I'm feeling bad. I'm like, where's God? Am I alone in this? Did he leave me stranded with this earnings report I have to deal with? I was very... it was just taking a toll on me. So I sat down one day at home on a chair and I said, God, I'm having a problem with this. And what I'd really like is a sign from you, a clear sign that you're still with me. You're on my side. And so I thought, well, this is about money. So I thought, why don't I ask for a sign having to do with money? I thought, well, okay, I got an idea. I'm going to ask for a sign from God, and that sign will be, I will unexpectedly come across a $100 bill. Now, I've never unexpectedly come across a $100 bill in my life. They're not in my pocket. I know, if I put a $100 bill in my sweater pocket, hang it up till spring, I would remember that $100 bill. So this has never happened to me. And I just thought, well, that'll be a good test to see if God is going to give me this sign. But I was comfortable that God is within me and God is for me. And so I thought, that's it. So we were living right on the river across from downtown. So I was walking across the Hennepin Avenue Bridge to go to work. So dutifully, as I walked, I'm watching the sidewalk thinking, well, I'll find the $100 bill here someplace. So watching, going back and forth a few days, and it was around Easter time. And my family was going to spend Easter in Wisconsin with some sisters. I was spending Easter in the city with my husband's family. And I was just kind of thinking, I want to see my family a little bit too. So I called around and I said, let's meet at Cassidy's in Hinckley. Well, my mom and dad would always give us these certificates to have dinner at Cassidy's in Hinckley because they knew it would get us up there. So anyway, I had these certificates. So I thought, well, I'll just, offer to buy my mom and sister and my sisters and a couple cousins, whatever. We had a table, my kids. And so we had a nice dinner at Cassidy's in Hinckley. And we're out in the parking lot. I'm getting ready to get in my car to go home. And my daughter and her girlfriend at the time were in the pickup next to me, and they were ready to go back too. And they rolled down their window, and I said, well, thank you for coming up here, and have a safe trip back. And my daughter, Chris, said, Mom, don't let that money fall out of your pocket. I reached in my jacket pocket. There's an unexpected $100 bill. And I didn't say to her, this is a sign from God right here. I didn't say that at the time. I just pondered it in my heart, thanked God on the way back, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I said to the kids, well, what is that all about? And they said, because we love you. They've always loved me. I've never gotten a $100 bill before. So I was very happy about that. Well, take this out another week or so. I come home from a meeting, walk into my bedroom. On my nightstand, there are neatly piled 3 $100 bills. And I say to my husband, where did this money come from? And he said, oh, I went to the casino, and that's your share of the winnings. Now, Gary didn't go to the casino. That wasn't his shtick. He didn't do that. But he was at the casino, and he won, and that was my share. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is God having a little bit of a chuckle. You think $100 is a big deal? Here's 100, here's 100, here's 100, here's 100. Are you okay? This is how it works. Abundance is ours. That power within is ours to speak our word for our good. Charles Fillmore has a book called Prosperity, and he's got a 3-step plan for bringing forth manifestation of God's abundant supply. Now, I did it my way, and it's pretty much the way he did it his way. You have to have confidence that there is a source. You have to believe in that. So he says this. He says, step 1, the universal, eternal substance of God, which is the source of all, and it can be discerned and relied on. You got to believe that. If you don't believe that, really, it's hard to manifest what you want to manifest here. You have to understand there is a power in the universe for good, and you can consciously use it. Primarily. And the thing is, the more we use it, the easier it is to know that. I think it's Ernest Holmes said, or maybe it was me, that said, all I know is what I've experienced. All I know is what I've experienced. So the more we use this philosophy, get answers to our prayers, know that we are not alone, the easier it is to do it again and again. There was a Sunday school teacher, and she was into the 23rd Psalm, and she kind of checking out her Sunday school kids, and she said, who knows how to recite the 23rd Psalm, the whole thing? Well, this little 4.5-year-old girl said, I do. And so the teacher thought, I don't think so. But she calls the little girl up in front. She said, okay. She said, recite it. And the little girl says, the Lord is my shepherd, that's all I want. And she sat down. So in a nutshell, that's the truth. That's all we want. That's all we need, that higher source. The Lord is our shepherd, God as our source. So we must direct our thoughts completely and away from a notion that we're dependent on material things, quarterly reports, whatever happens to be bugging us at the time. So that's step one, just remembering that we have a source. Step two is, he says, a firmament must be established. And I think he's talking about installing a belief in a desire that is a knowing. We can know it. We're not believing, we know it. And how do we know it? Because of our experiences. And how important that is. When the Depression took place, 1929, the crash happened, and then nobody had any money after that. Everybody was broke, and people had jumped out of buildings, and it was a horrible time. But you know, the board game Monopoly had been available before then, but when that depression hit, it sold like hotcakes. People enjoyed playing with that money, landing on Park Place and buying the hotel or the houses or whatever they did. They could, they were seeing it in their mind. They were having that experience. So they were beginning to know. They were beginning to have a feel for what abundance could be like. Isn't that interesting how that sold like hotcakes during that time? So people could have that experience. So I like to, one of my favorite expressions is, despite appearances, there's a power that's working for you. Despite appearances, I know there's something moving in the unseen for my greater good. Isn't that lovely? Despite appearance, no matter what is happening, I know there's something moving for my greater good. So we have to have that desire and know that there is good for us. That good is at hand. And the third step is forming of this substance into tangibility. One of the New Thought writers, really, I love to read his stuff, is Neville Goddard. He liked to go by one name, Neville. And he wrote a lot of books that all centered around the idea of the imagination. Because, when we do prayer treatment for people, when we do affirmative prayer, we ask people, what's your problem? What's going on in your life? What do you want me to pray for? And then they tell us, well, this or that, the relationship or money or whatever it is. And we say, okay, I think I understand what the situation is. Now I'm going to ask you this. How would the situation look if it were good? How would it look if it were perfect? Explain that to me. Talk to me about that. And that's what I claim for them. And so that's what Goddard is all about, just using our imagination to see that end result, see that end vision. Build a picture in your mind. In his book, Prosperity, Fillmore says, if the other steps of understanding and faith have not been taken first, there will be no demonstration, for the above creative law is orderly and works by progressive steps. First, you got to know that there's a power in the universe, okay? Then, the last step then is that visualization, visualizing what it is. So, how wealthy are we already? Well, we're wealthy in God's substance. It's everywhere. We don't have to beg for it. It's there. It's here within us. And we're wealthy in ideas. We live in a sea of possibilities everywhere. And we're wealthy in knowing how the creation unfolds in our life. We're wealthy to have this knowledge of this creative process. If there's something that you desire in your life, you plant that thought seed into that soil, that universal soil that gives you what you intended to proclaim. So, one day this guy, rich guy, wealthy guy, he wanted his son to understand about people that didn't have money. He thought it would be important for him to see the other side of the track, so to speak. So he takes him to this farm, and they spend a day and a night on this farm. And, they was a very poor family. They didn't have a lot of stuff, but that guy wanted his son to experience this. So on the way back, he said to his son, well, son, how was the trip? Oh, great, Dad. It was just great. Well, Dad says, well, what did you learn? And he said, well, let's see. I learned that we got one dog at home, and they've got 4 dogs. He said, we have a pool that reaches the middle of the garden. They have a creek, no end to it, just keeps going. We have imported lamps in the garden, and they have a whole star full of skies, of stars. Our patio reaches to the front yard, but they have the whole horizon. And when the little boy finished saying this, his dad was kind of speechless. He said, wow, I didn't think that's what he was going to learn. And the kid says, thanks, Dad, for showing me what real wealth really is. Didn't work out the way the dad thought, but probably better. So let's us revel in our own real health. And what I'd like you to do at this point is just get comfortable in your chairs, take a deep breath, and I would like to speak my word in a spiritual mind treatment revolving around the words I've spoken. And as we relax in this oneness with the source and know that that source is all there is available to each and every one of us, and we know that source is all good, it is peace, it is joy, it is love, it is balance, is order. It has the perfect solution to any perceived dilemma in my life. And I know I am one with it. It experiences life in, through, and as its creation, in, through, and as me, giving power to the words that I speak. So right now I declare these words. I remember to remember my source. I know it can be relied on. I remember the truth about my life, and I easily see this higher vision. Despite appearances, I know something is moving in the unseen for my greater good. And I follow Neville's ideas of using my imagination. I build a perfect picture in mind of the good that I desire. And I'm grateful for this creative process. Ernest Holmes says that's all we need. I'm grateful that my higher power experiences life in, through, and as me. And I release these words now to that beneficent conspiracy which does the work. So it is.